The ultrasound photo was still warm from the printer when my mother looked at it, laughed, an actual laugh, sharp and short like a cough, and said, "Great, another problem for this family to deal with." I want you to sit with that for a second, because I did. I sat in her kitchen, 7 weeks pregnant, holding a black and white photo of a heartbeat, and I watched my own mother treat it like a parking ticket. That was the moment I stopped being her daughter and started being her witness. My name is Naomi Wren. I'm 31 years old, and until 11 months ago, I believed my family was simply difficult, not dangerous. There's a difference, and it took me almost my whole life to learn it. I grew up in Ashford Hollow, a small town where everyone waved at everyone and nobody asked what was actually happening behind the waving. My mother, Diane, ran the house like a business with only one profitable client, my younger brother, Casey. Casey could total a car and get a hug. I could bring home a scholarship and get a lecture about how I thought I was better than everyone. I stopped keeping score by the time I was 17 because the score never changed. I left for college and didn't look back much. I built a life, a marketing job I liked, a small apartment with too many plants, and eventually a marriage to a man named Theo, who made me laugh so hard I'd forget to check my phone for the family group chat I muted years ago. We'd been trying for a baby for 2 years, 2 losses before this one. So when the test came back positive, I didn't tell anyone for 6 weeks. I just held it, like something too fragile to say out loud. When I finally told my mother, I thought, foolishly, hopefully, that this might be the thing that softened her. Instead, she looked at the ultrasound photo like it was an invoice, laughed, and called my baby a problem. I didn't cry in front of her. I'd learned that trick a long time ago. I said, "Okay," picked up my bag, and left. She called after me, annoyed, not sorry. "Don't be dramatic, Naomi." I drove home in silence. Theo asked how it went, and I said, "She called our baby a problem." And he didn't say anything for a long moment. Then he said, "We're not doing this to our kid. Whatever happens with them, we're not doing this." That should have been the end of it. A door quietly closing. But 2 weeks later, my Aunt Patrice, my mother's older sister, the one relative who'd always treated me like a person instead of a disappointment, called me with a voice I didn't recognize. Tight, careful. "Naomi," she said, "I need to tell you something about your mother and about money, and I need you to not react until I'm finished." That was the first crack in the story I thought I knew. Patrice explained that 18 years earlier, when my father died, he'd left a trust, not a large one, but meaningful, meant to be split evenly between me and Casey when we each turned 25. I was 31. I had never seen a cent of it, and I had never been told it existed. Casey, it turned out, had been receiving disbursements since he turned 25, quietly, funneled through an account my mother controlled as trustee, a role she was never supposed to hold past our 18th birthdays. I sat in my car outside a pharmacy, hand on my stomach, and felt something shift from grief into something colder and more useful, clarity. I didn't confront my mother, not yet. I'd learned that confronting Diane Wren without proof was like arguing with weather. She'd simply reshape the conversation until you were the unreasonable one. So instead, I did what she never expected me to do. I got quiet. I got organized. Over the next 2 months, while my belly grew and Theo painted a nursery the color of a robin's egg, I built a file. Patrice helped me get bank statements through a lawyer's request, since she was listed, unbeknownst to her for years, as a secondary contact on the trust's paperwork, a clerical leftover from my father's original estate documents. What we found wasn't just favoritism, it was systematic. Casey had received tuition payments, a car down payment, 2 loans that were never repaid, and monthly transfers labeled family support that only ever flowed one direction. The final piece came from somewhere I didn't expect, Casey himself. He showed up at my apartment one evening, unannounced, looking like a man carrying something he didn't want to carry alone anymore. He sat at my kitchen table, avoided my eyes, and said, "I need to tell you something before Mom finds a way to spin it first." He told me he'd known about the trust for years, that he'd asked our mother about Naomi's part once, back when he was 26, and she'd told him, verbatim, he remembered it like a wound. "Naomi doesn't need it. She thinks she's above this family. Let her earn her own." I asked him why he never told me. "Because I was scared that if I gave it back, she'd turn on me the way she turned on you," he said. And I hated myself for that every single day. It would have been easy to hate him. Some days I still felt the ember of it. But watching him sit there, ashamed, offering to sign an affidavit and pay restitution before I even asked, that was the difference between my brother and my mother. He was capable of shame. She had never once shown me any. We didn't storm into her house with the papers like a movie. That's not how real accountability works. And I didn't want revenge that looked good on camera. I wanted the truth to simply exist where it couldn't be denied anymore. Instead, Patrice arranged a quiet family meeting at her house, the neutral place none of us associated with old wounds. My mother arrived expecting a peace offering, maybe a chance to meet me halfway now that I was 6 months pregnant, and, in her words on the phone, finally being reasonable. She walked in smiling. She left in silence. I laid the folder on the table. Bank statements. The original trust document with my father's signature. Casey's written statement, which he read aloud himself, voice shaking but steady. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I said, "You didn't just play favorites, Mom. You stole from your own daughter and called her baby a problem in the same year. I need you to understand that those two things are connected. You've never once seen me as someone worth protecting." She tried what she always tried, the reframing, the "you're twisting this," the "after everything I've done for you." But there's a particular silence that happens when someone runs out of a lie mid-sentence because the paper trail is sitting 3 feet in front of them. That silence was the loudest thing I'd ever heard from her. Patrice, to her credit, didn't rescue her sister. She said, "Diane, I've stayed out of your business for 30 years. I'm done doing that now." We didn't send my mother to prison. Restitution and a lawyer's letter closed most of it out of court, since Casey cooperated fully and the amounts, once repaid, were something my mother could still manage, if barely, by selling the lake cabin she loved more than she'd ever loved either of her children. That sale, more than any speech I could have given, seemed to finally reach her. Losing an object hurt her in a way losing my trust never had. The real reckoning wasn't legal. It was social and quiet and slow, which is exactly how truth usually settles. Word moved through the family the way it always does, not through shouting, but through people quietly deciding who they believed. Most of them believed the bank statements. I gave birth to a daughter, Elowen, on a Tuesday in March. My mother asked, through Patrice, if she could visit the hospital. I said no. Not out of cruelty, out of protection. Some doors you close because slamming them once isn't enough. You have to keep them closed on purpose, every day, for a while. It's been 8 months since Elowen was born. My mother has written me 2 letters. The first was full of excuses. The second, 3 months later, was different, shorter, no justification, just, "I was wrong about the money, and I was wrong about what I said. I don't expect you to let me back in. I just needed you to know I know." I haven't answered yet. I might, someday, in whatever careful, boundaried way keeps my daughter safe from the version of my mother that laughed at an ultrasound. Casey sees Elowen every few weeks. He's earned that, slowly, the way trust has to be earned instead of assumed. Here's what I learned. The hard way. The only way I think this lesson ever really lands. The people who are supposed to protect you don't get a lifetime pass just because they share your blood. Love isn't proven by the years someone has known you. It's proven by how they treat you when you're at your most vulnerable. My mother saw a scared, hopeful, 7 weeks pregnant version of me, and she chose that moment to remind me of my place. I chose that moment to finally learn mine, not beneath her, not above her, just finally, entirely, my own. Elowen is asleep in the next room as I write this. She will never know what her grandmother said about her before she was even born. But she'll know, when she's old enough, that her mother didn't stay small to keep the peace. Some silences protect people. That one only ever protected a lie. I wasn't willing to raise my daughter inside it.